do this.
No worries. I like your podcast. It's a good thing.
Oh, thanks very much.
Yeah, no worries.
I thought that like a fun place to start could be, what's the most recent album that you've listened to?
Listen to?
Yeah.
That's an interesting one. Listening to albums, that's kind of a weird thing these days because it's usually playlists. The thing that I've been listening to the most is, do you know that artist Drug Dealer?
No.
I don't know much about where he's from, but he's kind of got this, it's very influenced by 70s kind of LA rock. But so he's got a station called Drug Dealer Radio on Spotify, which is like, it's got his stuff and it's got a lot of stuff that's obviously been influenced, you know, that it's influenced his music. So that's on there. But the funny thing is mostly I've been listening to stuff I'm learning. So
Sure.
We've just finished a RocKwiz tour that was 39 shows and we kept changing artists. You know, you change artists every couple of weeks and then changing a few. So I'm just digging through, finding new things to learn, finding new things to suggest, all that kind of stuff. So listening for pleasure is kind of, you know, it's taken a back seat for a while. But yeah, it's kind of interesting. I just go back to old records I really love and what made them great. Just thinking, you know, like it's just that combination of, you know, I hate to sound like, you know, oh, the old records were so much better, because they're not necessarily. There's some incredible records coming out now. I think St. Vincent was the last record I listened to in its entirety. And that was probably about 6 months to a year ago almost, whenever that one came out. And Salt.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. But, yeah, so I'll go back and just listen to, you know, I might watch a documentary on a specific record or an artist, then I'll go back and listen to that. And a lot of 60s soul music and just early, even further back, you know, just where grooves come from, you know, that thing, and great songwriting. Like there was a fantastic documentary on Doc Pomus, you know, songwriter, and just the songs that he's written over the years, and you go, wow, man, there's these classic songs, and you're reminding yourself of all these tunes. And it reminds me of this great Bob Dylan quote when he used to do his theme time radio hour. Did you ever hear that?
No.
He used to do these radio shows. It was probably about 10 or 15 years ago, where he would just do a theme and all the songs would be around that theme.
Oh.
And he would host it and talk. And he was quite humorous. And you saw this other side of him. And there's this one... you know, he'd have these letters, which I don't know if they were fake or not. and he'd say, I just got a letter from Wayne from Dubuque. He said, you don't seem to play much new stuff, Bob. You got anything against the new stuff? Well, Wayne, I love some of the new stuff. It's just there's a lot more old stuff. So it's kind of like if you start going back, it's endless, you know. And but I love being excited by a new artist. When you hear somebody, you go, wow, that's really, really cool.
Yeah.
And I love, the thing that excites me about new artists is the love of what they're doing. You know, I mean, when people actually, you just feel it in the music. You feel this dedication to what they're doing, and it's like they're so driven by it. They've got a voice. They've got their idea of what they want music to be, and they're not letting anything get in the way of it.
Yeah.
And to me, that's you know, you see that's somebody that's an artist that's going to be doing stuff for a long time.
Do you get to like have many interactions with new artists?
A lot of the time, yeah.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, mostly through RocKwiz, because we're always, we're always, you know, trying to mix old and new artists together. So I'll meet a lot of people through that, and you know, just through other musicians that I work with, their friends, and you know, other musicians, you know, play on different records with different people, and it's I think Melbourne in particular is it's quite a open community, even though there's a lot of press that would tell you differently. But it really is quite open when you get to know people. And I do this little gig in at the Mary Creek Tavern occasionally with my longtime partner in music, Bill McDonald, on bass, and my brother Dan, and we have artists come in and just do 2 or 3 songs. It's the room. I don't know if you know the room there.
Not well. I've been once.
It holds about 35 to 50 people.
Yeah,
max.
it's tiny.
But we just do it for fun when we're not on doing anything else, and we'll just find artists that go. You know, there's a guy named Gregor Grigor, and he was, my brother knew him and Bill knew him. I wasn't familiar with any of his music, and he came along and he was fantastic. And you go, what? Man, this is like somebody that's just doing their thing, and he tours Europe and he does all that kind of stuff. And so you find people just through doing that kind of stuff.
Do you like the I don't know, organization and collaboration of like putting on, you know, your regular event where you get to like, you know, invite different artists along to play?
Yeah, I love the concept and I love the end result. The organisation can sometimes be a little tiresome, but I love the it's kind of life affirming when you do something like that and you go, this is great, and it really just you know, reinvigorates your love of what you do.
Yeah,
and just, you know, hearing people's take on, you know, the way they approach music, and, you know, and sometimes what's really funny is when people don't usually work with this, they work with one particular band a lot and they don't play with other people, and then they come and play with us, and their reaction is either like they're a little bit nervous or they're really surprised at how much effort we put into learning their tunes.
Oh.
And it's like, wow, you know, this, you know, so it's good. It's kind of like this mutual respect thing.
Yeah. What's your process for learning tunes? Like, you must have to do so many, especially with like the turnover of RocKwiz.
Yeah, I think it's like learning a lot of songs is like a muscle. You get a particular way of doing it, and I think everyone that I know does it slightly differently. But what I tend to do is I'll listen a few times without trying to take anything in and just get an idea of the shape of it, and then I'll sort of write out a rough arrangement, and then I always learn the melody of songs, and I try and get into the lyrics as much as possible, because I think if you know the actual tune and if everything falls to shit, you can get your way through it because you know where it's meant to go. So and then I'll examine anything that's possibly problematic or difficult. Go, oh yeah, that's a little bit weird, that bit there, or that part isn't a natural thing to play for me. So I'll sit down and spend a bit of time mapping it out. And then it's just, so then once I've done that, I go back and listen again, and with that in mind. And then I might try playing along with it as the last thing. So, and sometimes when you can get quite not stressed, but a little overawed by how a part should sound, and then you get in the room with everyone and it gets performed. Just go, oh, that's, the mystery's gone now. It actually feels like this all makes sense. So that first realization that, okay, great, it's not as daunting as I thought it would be.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time it's just, I mean, the other thing is to find your way in so that you can play something confidently. And sometimes, you know, this used to happen when we did the TV show. We would have only one rehearsal with an artist the day before the shoot, and then one rehearsal on the day of the shoot. So you would, you know, there'd be things you'd go, like a particular drum part, you go, this isn't really anything that's going to be able to be made sound great in 2 days unless I've spent 8 hours on it. So I'll say to the artist, how attached are you to the drum part on the record? I mean, is it, because if you want it to be exactly the same as that, I'll do the work, but it's going to sound a little like overthought and unnatural. It's not my natural thing. But if you're not that precious about it, I've got a way of playing that I can play it confidently, and I can make the song feel good, and I can make everybody feel comfortable. And a lot of the times I go, yeah, just do your thing, you know, and then it sounds great. But sometimes you get people that are very specific about the way they want it, and that's total respect for that. But that takes a little bit more, you know, if it's something that's not a natural thing, you've really got to do the grind.
Yeah. I feel like it was pretty special, the trio that you had on the TV show.
Yeah, I mean, it was. It's really funny how that evolved, because if I go back and listen to or look at the first season, James was pretty much just playing organ and piano and guitar. So it was we were just making every song sound like that kind of trio.
Yeah.
And then the next season, he brought in another keyboard that had a few more sounds on it, so we could get to explore what a few more sounds off a record. And as the show evolved, music changed a lot. Like a lot of the pop music of the day that because we're having a lot of younger artists, there was so much more emphasis on parts, and things were really, really specifically written to it. So you'd have to try and then adapt to that a bit more. So it became a little more like, shit, there's more in this, and then so you'd work out ways to make it work within the limitations of the three of us, and which was really challenging and really good fun. And then when James left, because I think we'd done the show for a while, and he was doing all the post-production as well, so he'd go in and have to sort through everything, work out spill, or so he'd be spending hours in the studio trying to make things sound as good as possible. So I think after a while, and we started to add an extra song to the show. We were doing 2 shoots a night in those days, and I think he just got a little burnt out. It wasn't fun anymore, so he just stepped aside. And when he stepped aside, we got a keyboard player and a guitarist. We got Ash and Cleo. So therefore, you've got one. James was doing a lot of that himself, but once that's freed up, you can hear, okay, great, all right, now it's more like a normal 4-piece band where you've got a little bit more scope, and we could change it slightly that way. And then that lineup was for probably the last 3 seasons we did, and that's kind of the current touring lineup. Yeah,
what's it like doing the show live with an audience there in a different way to just the TV world? You
mean in the live sense?
Yeah.
Well, it becomes more like a gig, and but it's a combination. It's a cross between a gig and a musical theatre thing, because there's the comedy aspect, there's the quiz aspect, and then there's the music. And so it's the tour we just finished was like 2 50-minute sets or something, because we had an interval this time, which we never used to do, and the selection process for the guests was a lot shorter at the start. So it was quite it's probably only about 8 songs in the show, 7 or 8 songs, but there's a lot of play-ons and play-offs. And when you get someone to come in and fill in, like Ash Naylor couldn't do the last couple of weeks because he was off on tour with the church, so we got Dan Kelly to come in, and we've also got Olivia Bartley playing guitar and doing second guitar and a lot of vocals as well. So we're now a 5-piece band, so we've got a lot more firepower. But we had Dan he'd learnt the songs, and he came in and he went, now there's all these play-ons and play-offs. Let's run those. So they're all with a cue that's like a snare hit.
Okay.
There's not much counting in, because a lot of them are cues from Julia. So she'll sort of say, it's in the script, so you can write out a little cue for yourself, but you've got to have your wits about you.
Yeah.
And because there's a lot more time between songs than like a normal gig, so you got to be careful that your head's in the show the whole time, because by about week 4 you can be start to maybe think about something else for a second, or something that happened 5 minutes ago that was really funny, and you just reliving that in your head, or something that oh man, I forgot that cue, and you're dwelling on that. So so you got to just really stay focused the whole time. So that's, I think, the concentration is a lot harder than the physicality. So,
did you grow up watching any of those like late night shows with the band playing
always,
in and off?
Yeah. I mean, there was, I think we got Letterman pretty late here, didn't we? Because Vizard sort of stole that idea. Vizard was kind of this show that was, I'd seen Letterman from touring the States in '86, and I came here and I just saw that Vizard channel. I went, no, this is a direct rip-off of that. It's like we're small enough and far enough away that no one's going to see it.
Exactly.
So yeah, there was that band. There was the house band there, and then there was all those midday shows. They'd always have. But we were kind of like, our whole thing with RocKwiz was not be like that. We were more trying to be the opposite of that.
Yes.
Like no charts, no charts and lamps,
Yes.
Just going, and our whole idea was to try and be the band of that artist's. So you're becoming their band for the night, rather than, Sausage Factory where they come in, you turn the page in your chart, play it, you're not even looking at the artists. It was more like, we wanted to make them feel like we were really there to try and do the best possible job. So that was good. But I mean, to me, those early Letterman, if you look at the early Letterman band when it was at NBC and it was a 4-piece band, that looked like a pretty fun thing at that time. So if it's going to be aligned with anything, it would have been in that.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And special that I suppose you got to do it for so long.
Yeah.
Like you've had quite a few long-term musical relationships.
Yeah, well, it's sort of the way. I mean, if you're lucky enough to do that, it's the best way to do it. You know? I mean, it gives you an opportunity to develop properly and really get inside what it is. It's and it, I don't know. It makes you feel more like you're involved as a band member than you are as a side person. And it's funny because, I mean, when I was growing up, I just wanted to be in bands, but then the concept of playing, as a quotes session player was almost like, wow, that's a cool gig, like especially in the 70s when I was growing up, as a teenager. So I sort of really like the idea of that, but then the tag that goes along with that can be sometimes a little unflattering, like you're a bit of a hack and you're just going in there doing, whatever, whoever pays. So I've always tried to sort of have that approach of whoever's getting me to play with them, I'm their drummer for that time. So I'm like I'm in your band for that few ever hours that we have or few days. And, so you defer to them for, you want to bring your ideas in, but you also want to, respect what they're trying to do and, be as helpful as possible to get that across and know when to shut up and listen and just do what you're supposed to do. So
that's a really interesting attitude to bring to, like, regardless of how long it's for, like a tour or just a day in the studio.
It's more enjoyable, it's actually, if you love music, like all the people I play with all the time are incredible music fans, like more than, that's why we all get along. Because, I mean, Paul's mentioned it in a lot of the interviews for this last record, how everyone in this band knows so much about different genres of music. So when we all get together, there's always an incredible sort of recipe for like you can add this and add that, and no one's ever we're never trying to duplicate or copy something. We're just bringing in, like, what would this be like in this? A concept of something that you've gone from somewhere else, bring it to this and have it sort of thinly veiled, so you're not stomping on it. You're not saying, hey, this is a cool thing that's happening now, we're going to bring this into this music, which is to me a little bit like treacherous. It's like, it just can sound like you're trying to jump on board something. Whereas if you actually have this, when Paul and I first started working together, for those Paul Kelly, who I'm talking about, for those who are unaware, we bonded over hip hop in 1993.
Wow.
We were, I remember we were it was the first time I'd played with him, and we did South by Southwest in 93 in Austin, and then we did some recording in LA. And we did, after the first day of recording, we went to Cantor's Deli, and as we were coming out to the car, The Chronic, Dr. Dre, The Chronic was on the radio, and we're both sitting there going, I love this record. And he goes, yeah, I know this record too.
Wow.
So we always had that love of it, that and, soul music and just, a lot of old R&B and a lot of pop music and, country music, like so. But the hip hop connection was a real big thing.
Wow.
So yeah.
How did you get the gig with Paul? Because you'd been with the Black Sorrows for like, I don't know, 8-10 years or something.
Yeah, I was with them for about 8 years, and I was doing a lot of stuff for Mushroom White Records, which Paul was signed to at the time, just as playing on people's records like Archie Roach, Dave McComb, those sort of people. And so they got asked to put together a backing band for this South by Southwest thing. I think they called it something like the Melbourne Shuffle or some hokey name like that. And it was me and Bill McDonald and Shane O'Mara, and we were playing with Chris Wilson at the time as well. So we were over there. So we just did this stuff. And then Paul was living in LA at the time, and the Messengers had kind of finished, and he was over there. He lived there for about 18 months, I think, and just working as a solo artist, just playing and, getting, into smaller venues and working with other songwriters and getting to know a lot of producers and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, so he said, oh, look, I wouldn't mind using this band to play on some of my tunes. So we were great. So we had a rehearsal, and then we did the first couple of days rehearsal, and then we did this first show, and he said, I wouldn't mind recording some of these tunes. We've got a couple of days off. So he booked a studio, and we went in and did a couple of tracks, and one of them was Love Never Runs on Time, which is, but we still doing the set. And so we did that. I went home. We all just went our separate ways. He moved back to Australia, and in the meantime, I'd left the Black Sorrows for different reasons, like bands do sometimes. And I walked past him, and he was outside the laundromat in St Kilda, and I said, I said, I've just left the Sorrows. If you're looking for a drummer, give me a call. And he just gave me one of those, nod and smile. Not pretty. I didn't think much more of it. And then about a month later, he rang me and he said, were you serious about that?
Wow.
Because I'm bringing out a guitar player from LA that I work with over there, and I want to do a 4-week tour or 5-week tour. So this was in the summer of '94. And so I did that, and then and that just continued on.
Wow.
And the bands have changed. Sorry again. Bands changed a bit over the time, but so it's been 31 years.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
How's the freedom of musical expression changed for you in that group over that time?
Well, it's never not been, he's always welcomed your ideas. And I think the thing that struck me first, the first time I worked with Paul, was this guy is incredibly secure in his ability. He doesn't feel the need to tell everybody. He's welcoming ideas because he knows, the songs are good, and so it's like, the most he ever says is, if you bring an idea in here, he goes, yeah, what else you got? That's like, so, and then you'll, come up with plan B and C. So, but there's a lot of collaboration involved, just in terms, the songs are the songs, mostly the songs are finished when we get them, at least on, there's lyrics, there's melody, there's chords, and he'll bring it in, and then we'll toss the songs around and see where they end up in terms of stylistically or feel or how they go. And sometimes they'll be how he's hearing them, and sometimes they'll be a surprise, and he'll say, wow, I didn't think that'd be how this goes, but I actually really like where it's gone. And I think that's just the beauty of having a group of people that have played together, because this current band's been together for 17 years. So there's a real everybody's got input, everybody gets on really well, and we can argue and not fight, and so but we all have the same goal, which is stay out of the way of the, don't get in the way of the song. Contribute. If what you're doing is not adding something, then you've pretty much just got to let the song unfold, and whatever you can do to support that and make that happen, and finding ways to make it work. And for me, it's always just I think over the years, Paul's guitar playing and my drumming have a language within it's like which becomes that's to me is the motor of the band, and it's just the way we play together that's got a sound and it's got a swing and it's got this swagger. And Bill, who plays bass, and Bill and I have been playing for 40-odd years, 46 years. So he'll naturally come up with a part that works in that. And usually his parts are so crucial to the tune. You don't notice them until you go, wow, someone tries to learn it and go, what is that? But they're super melodic and they're really he just has a great understanding of composition because he's a writer himself. So, he's playing. We hardly ever discuss what we're going to do. The only time we'll ever say anything is, are you playing a triplet against that eighth note? Because, it's like, or just something, excuse me, that rhythmically might, and then one of us will just adjust it. But that's as much as it ever is.
Yeah, cool.
We never have that kind of like, locking in on the, we're not that kind of thing. We play around each other. We meet on certain notes of the bar. I like to create space and, make it I feel like things are larger when you leave more space. So, but that's just a technical thing. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. Like I was speaking to a few different people about like, my excitement for this chat with you.
Oh, right.
And, most recently I was borrowing a mic from Greg Arnold.
Oh yeah.
And Greg was just like, I just love the feeling of playing with Pete. Like
that's pretty nice. Yeah.
And like I feel like that was a very common thread of like you have this sound that feels really good to lots of different musicians.
Well, that's great to hear back because that's the intention. I kind of want to be like someone's most comfortable pair of shoes. Where you just go, oh yeah, that's the ones, And that's, I think, drummers in particular, whenever a band changes drummers, no matter how good the new person is, it's never going to feel the same, not straight away. And to actually make whoever you're working with feel that comfortable as quickly as possible is the goal, So it's funny. I've seen it happen with a lot of bands. And I go, this should work, but it's taking a while to find its feet, and it's just because people get used to a sound and a feel, and the way things move within the music and choices of feels and choices of where this happens, and it's really that was the thing on RocKwiz. You really got to know people that work with the same drummer a lot come onto the show and then they hear me, and it's kind of might be different, and you just know you're going to cop it. You're going to go, it's like, yeah, it doesn't feel the same. It's like, yeah, I know it doesn't.
It's a different person.
Yeah, it's a different person, and you're used to this one person for the last 15 years, and you're going to have someone else. It's not going to sound. And we're doing your song. It's not like we're doing a neutral tune.
Yep.
Where we're both coming at it. Like, the person, I shouldn't name names, but I will. With the utmost respect for Dave Faulkner as a songwriter, singer, and artist, he's so used to his songs in the days when playing, with Mark playing drums, that he would be onto every nuance. And the first time we did RocKwiz, we did Come Anytime, and it was like, he goes, the hi-hats are too swingy, it sounds daggy. So I went, okay. I know. But it's funny because I took that as a compliment.
Oh, cool.
Because of course that's my thing is I want to make the hi-hats as swingy as possible. I want to make Kraftwerk sound swingy if I can, That's my thing. And I wasn't offended. I went, yeah, okay, so that's not the way you want to hear. So I went home and I just sat there with a drum machine making my hi-hats as metronomic as possible, and came in the next day when ran it, and I said, and he just said, yeah, that felt better. So you do I have absolute respect for the tunes and the history and the artist that is him and what he's done. So of course you're going to do it, but it's no way it's going to sound like like it's just so you do that, and you're going to you're going to cop things like never read the comments on YouTube. That's because for every 10 great ones, there's going to be somebody that's going to want to rip you apart, and it's pretty funny. I'll give you a great story.
Yeah.
Nick Murphy, Chet Faker, right? Chet, he did the show, and he did this song called "I'm Into You," right?
Oh yeah.
You know that song?
Yep.
We weren't sure he was doing the show until the Sunday night before the record. I mean, so I spoke to him on the phone. He was locked in, and he said, "Yeah, I'll do that song, and then we'll do this as a duet." So I went and listened to that song, and it's got a very specific hi-hat part. It's and it works across. It's a really, really good part. But there was no way known I was going to get it like that in a day and make it feel awesome. And I had to sing backing vocals on it as well.
Ooh.
So that was the one where I said, is this cool if I just come up with a approximated version of it based on, because to me it sounded kind of like, okay, that hi-hat part is not too dissimilar to Sissy Strut by the Meters. It's that got a similar broken kind of syncopated vibe, but it's slightly different. So again, I would have had to have really, to make that so that you're inhabiting it, which is the way you want to play it, would have taken a good solid 2 weeks of sitting down and playing with it. Anyway, I did it. He was happy. We did, great job on it, all that kind of stuff. And like 6 months later, I'm, flicking through, and there was a comment under it, and it said, "Do you think this drummer could get the fucking drum part right, like on the record?" And I'm thinking to myself, the only person that would know that I didn't play the drum part on the record would be the drummer. And so it's either a mate of his or him, and I just went, I felt like writing back, fair call, but, in my defence. But you just got to take that shit. It's like,
It's good. No, it's so true. Don't read the comments.
Nah. I tell this to people all the time. It's like, man, people are going to be brutal for no reason. I had a guy come up to me. This is a classic. I was in the Virgin Lounge. We're flying up to Brisbane to do a RocKwiz gig, and I had my daughter with me. At the time, she was probably 7, and she's sitting around. Luckily, she's talking to one of the girls in the band, and Bill's sitting next to me. And this guy comes up to me in the Virgin Lounge, and he says, "Hey, mate, are you who I think you are?" I said, "Oh, it depends who you think I am." He goes, "Drummer from RocKwiz." I went, "Yeah." And he goes, "Oh, yeah, I'm blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I just want to talk to you about your drum sound." I went, I'm thinking he's going to ask questions. He goes, "Yeah, it's shit." Oh. And I went, "All right." I said, "Which particular one? Because I use a few. It's like I'll adjust to the songs." And I thought, like, if this guy feels the need to come and tell me my drum sound is shit, then I'll just wear it. It's like, whatever, dude. It's like, but you just go, okay. And he goes, "Yeah, it sounds like 60s surf rock." I went, "Yeah, cool."
Yeah,
that's sort of what I was after.
It's a good vibe.
Yeah, for some things, and it's like, but there's just, you're never going to please everyone. You got to just do your thing and try and be as good at it as you can be. Mm-hmm. And the only time I feel disappointed is when I've let myself down, if I haven't prepared properly. And if you haven't prepared properly and it didn't go to plan, it's your fault. Whereas if you've done everything you can do and people don't like it, there's bugger all you can do about it. So you just got to, for every 10 people that get it, 20 won't, or whatever, or 5 won't. It doesn't matter. You just got to, as long as the person that's standing in front of you that you're playing behind is happy. That's I remember playing K-San with Jimmy Barnes as the opening night. When they did those ABC New Year's Eve shows, live, that's the first one of those. And the very first song of the night was K-San playing it with Jimmy. And so it's like, that's a scary thing. And Charlie Drayton, who plays in Cold Chisel now, is a good friend of mine. And I just love the way he plays that song because it's really groovy. It's like, and I said to Charlie, like I've always tried to approach To Adore like the way he approaches K-San, because it's the same tempo, it's a similar vibe, and it's just, anyway. So I did it, and I was telling Jim about that was a huge fan of the way Charlie plays it. So he said to me, "Oh, you count it in then." Because he was normally the keyboard player starts it. And he said, I went, "Okay, great." And then I said, we're sounding side of stage, and trying to keep your hands, because it's not a slow tune. And I said, "Oh man, what was I thinking doing this first?" And he goes, "You'll be right." It worked out great, but it was like,
wow,
that kind of thing is like that's an iconic thing to have to, be a part of.
But like, testament to you and the work ethic that you have, and just to be able to like step in and do it.
Well, I think it comes from loving what I mean, it's whenever people say, especially drummers come say, "I'm having trouble just playing this simple groove," and I say, "Well, you probably don't dig it." It's like it's possibly something you think is maybe not. It's not what I want to do, or something like that. So if you love the simplicity and you find the beauty in the simplicity, you'll dig in and you'll really make it feel good. Whereas if you think it's a little beneath you, or a little, this is a bit, then you're not going to sound convincing to me anyway, So I just think it comes back down to having an incredible love for being able to play music, and if you get to play it with good people, then that's an incredible privilege. So you just got to try and keep doing what you can to stay on top of things,
Do you mind having a bit of a chat about like your origins and like?
Not at all.
Yeah. Because I feel like, you had a great drummer for a father, and like, but also you play a left-handed drum kit, which is like, whose idea was that? And
well, I think I just, I'm left-handed and left-footed. And when I remember seeing a drum kit set up, it all felt weird. And then I watched drummers, I taught myself how to play initially.
Okay.
And I watched, they were playing a hi-hat crossing over their hands. I went, well, that should be the other way around for me. I'd never seen a left-handed drummer. I just thought that's the way it's supposed to be. So I set the kit up. All of a sudden it felt natural.
Wow.
So, and then the rest of it, so I learnt from watching drummers on TV shows. And then once I could hear where the 2 and 4 was on the record, and and then I had to work out where the bass drum fell, and and just the coordination between that. And so I played along. I started playing when I was about 9, and my dad wouldn't give me any drum lessons. He said, "If you're going to learn, you got to learn properly." So he just gave me the drum kit to hang around. He showed me what a paradiddle was.
Wow.
This is just once, but he just was like, "No, just play, and when you're ready, if you want to be serious, we'll go on." So I played from the age of 9 to 16, teaching myself just from listening to records, and I had my first drum lesson at 16, and I almost wanted to give up.
Wow.
So you go in there and you learn all this stuff that you have no idea. It's like, I've been doing everything wrong forever, and I, Jesus, this is a new beginning. But so I learnt, took lessons for the next 3 years, and I learned off this guy. His name was Glenn Bayliss. He was a kind of like played on shows like Godspell and all those sort of live theatre things. So he was he read incredibly well and had really great technique. So he was a really good guy to learn off. But it was, no mucking around. You sort of went in there and you learnt and you did this, and then you had to do your work away from there. But he wasn't hard, but he was not going to take any bullshit, if you hadn't done the work. So it kind of was a good kick in the ass. And once I started to understand, broke down the mystery of the technical side of things, it was just a question of putting in the time. And once it was amazing, because you get, all of a sudden you get a little bit of technique and you go, wow, that's what that is. Yeah. And all of a sudden you can play something you've heard before that you could never work out. Because, there was no YouTube and there was no, it was just like, you put it on a tape recorder and slow it down and stop it, learn that bit there, and try and, and then finding out that everything you'd learnt was backwards, and this was a double stroke here, and this led with that. But it was amazing because, you know, all of a sudden it was like you got a secret code, and all you had to do was actually put in the hours to. Once I kind of got good at a double stroke roll, which is, you know, just left, right, and could control the rebound, all of a sudden that opened up a lot of doors.
Yeah.
And then you learn a paradiddle, and you learn on a paradiddle, you learn that you've got one free hand that gets you to another part of the kit. So all of a sudden you go, all right, so because everything you do before that's just single strokes, and it's a real physical thing to get around a kit with just hand to hand. But all of a sudden when you've got a free hand, it's like, wow, I sound like Buddy Rich, you know, for about a minute and a half, you know. Until I realised, you know, but here I never forget playing a paradiddle and playing the floor tom and the rack tom. Almost like, wow, this sounds like proper drums, you know.
Yeah.
So that kind of, you know, I was playing in, you know, suburban bands, you know, like around when I was sort of in my teens, and then, but the more I got into drum lessons, I started looking for more. You know, drumming that sort of was a bit more technically interesting and a little kind of harder, you know, what I thought. Mm-hmm. So I was listening to a lot of Steve Gadd and a lot of those kind of records, and, you know, and I started listening to a lot of jazz, and I started playing along with all those records.
Right.
And so I was really into that, and I was practicing quite a lot. And then I got a call from Bill McDonald, my longtime bass player, who was at Melbourne State College. Melbourne State College was the music course that preceded the VCA jazz, because VCA back in the 70s was mostly classical. The jazz course didn't start till later, so contemporary sort of jazz was all State College and La Trobe and Monash, and I don't even think it was at Monash. Anyway, so there was this band of people at that thing, and they were kind of playing. I don't like to use the word fusion. It's a pretty dirty word, but jazz rock. So it was funky, and it was kind of, it had a jazz thing. It was pre the word fusion in some ways, you know. It was
sure,
but it was all still composition based. It wasn't all about chops, but it was like playing along with the records that I was listening to with real people that could play that shit. And it was like, all of a sudden, I'm like the worst guy in the band. So I've got to lift my game. And so it made me, you know, then I started, you know, practicing 4 or 5, 6 hours a day, and for a couple of years, and got the facility that was needed to play that kind of music. And, you know, so that was kind of a really good way to get control of your instrument in terms of having a vocabulary. Mm-hmm. But I always loved rock and roll, and I loved R&B. I loved Bernard Purdie and Rick Marotta and Andy Newmark, all those sort of people. So they were all backbeat players, but they played pretty groovy. Mm-hmm. And so I felt like a little bit of an imposter, especially playing straight jazz. Like I used to get called up to play straight bebop gigs, and I'd be bluffing like crazy to get through it. I could play the reason why I got the gig is because I could swing. I didn't have much in the facility department in that world. Mm-hmm. Like I had enough to kind of like bluff my way through, but I could swing and make something feel okay. And so bass players and piano players liked it. So I played with Vince Jones for a while, and, you know, Ken Schroeder and those kind of people. But I always felt like a bit of a fake. And I remember doing this Jamie Aebersold clinic, back in the 70s. Every year there would be a bunch of New York musicians would come out as part of this Jamie Aebersold's, you know, like course that you could do. Okay. And it was like a 1-week intensive, like a boot camp thing. You paid money, and you'd get to hang with these and play with ensembles with all these people that played with Miles Davis and played with Chick Corea and played with, you know, incredible, like Dave Liebman, Adam Nussbaum, who's this jazz drummer that fantastic still is, was 23 at the time. Huh. And he was playing with Dave Liebman's band. And I had a lesson with him, and then I hung out with him a bit, and he said to me, he said, "Hey man, you play a lot of rock and roll." And I said, "How can you tell?" He goes, "I just can tell by the way you move around the kit." And he said, "Why do you want to play jazz?" I said, "I feel like I should." And he goes, mate, Melbourne's a rock and roll city. If you lived in New York, I'd say, yeah, sure. Why don't you just do that? And I went, you know what? That's what I'm doing. Wow. So I'll always remember that conversation, and I just went back into sort of, playing what I love. But the great thing about having that background of the jazz sort of, like as Jim Keltner says, I have too much respect for jazz to ever call myself a jazz musician. But I'd been kind of on the tail end of it, on the periphery of it, but the best thing, two things it gave me was the ability to swing, which you can bring to rock, which is the quintessential part of rock and roll. It's the roll in the rock and roll, and listening. It gave you a really good sense of you really had to listen to what was going on, so you develop really good ears. So I think they're the two things I took away from it, and just understanding, the way harmony works. I don't know technically how harmony works, but I can hear it.
Sure.
And I know when things. So you're following tunes through that. So they were really good things to have, in your back pocket moving forward.
What a learning journey. And then such a great, here's the freedom to go and play what you love.
Yeah, exactly.
It was when you needed it,
It was
probably.
like snatching the pebble from the hand.
I thought that we could have a bit of a chat about your thoughts about session musicians and royalties.
Yeah, exactly. That's a interesting topic.
Yeah. Because, some people might have, read the article that interviewed you in the Sydney Morning Herald a year ago, and it's an interesting world watching what's happening with the industry. But I'd love to hear your perspectives, because you've been doing session work for so long. You've probably noticed the money's not changing that much over the years, and there's no royalties once you get paid for the day.
The way it is here is it's kind of diabolical for anybody that plays on records that isn't a writer is not making any residuals. And in America and in England, people that do the same as what people like myself and other people do are all getting what they call mailbox money, for years. So if you play on an ad, or if you do a television show, or you do something like that, or a tune that's been played on radio over and over, you get residuals from it as somebody that's played on the track.
Wow.
And it's not to do with the artist. It's to do with the government. It's the way it's set up there. So, we here rely on the generosity of artists to look after us. And that's a lot of pressure on an artist, because people don't have the money anymore. So, we if you cut in on some songwriting here and there, that's the only way any of us have ever made any ongoing money. But it's it's a if you look at Mark Holden was the one that got me onto that thing, because he said we're one of the few countries in the world, that Western countries, that don't have that in place. Ain't going to change anytime soon, because there's an election coming up, and there's no way the new government's going to bring that in, whoever it is. It's just not going to happen, So it's a system that no one's going to change it, because it's not to anyone's benefit apart from the people that, Yeah,
it's taking money away from, the big winners.
Exactly. So, because that money's got to come, it doesn't just turn up. It's got to come from somewhere. And, but the way it works in those countries is it's part of the sale, like APRA takes X amount here, publishing takes X amount, mechanical royalties, whatever. There's another thing there that gets taken out of every. Now that records are being pretty much given away for free, so it's not likely that that money's going to change anytime soon either. But it is. It's funny, because you look at your counterparts that have had a similar career to what I've had, similar career path, that live in the UK or the US. They're pretty much got the second car, the house, all this stuff, and they're reasonably comfortable. Here, I'm hand to mouth, still am, and it's and I haven't got a gambling habit or a drug habit or anything like that. It's just the way, we're working like anybody that works in a job that it's almost like you're a contract worker, which we are, but without any, long-term plan. I mean, the super angle, I mean, super only became compulsory like 6 years ago or 7 years ago. So we get paid super now, but, it's like I've already spent that.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I don't think I realized that all the other countries, like major Western nations with other session musicians, had like a mechanical royalty like the songwriter does.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
Wow.
It's not to the same extent, but it does exist.
Yeah, it's like actually built in, like the songwriter royalty, where every time it's played,
can't be touched.
Wow.
But like a friend of mine, Ben Wiesner, another drummer, played on a couple of tunes when he lived in the UK, and he had to join the union so that they could pay him. Otherwise, he was going to get fined for not being in the union.
Oh.
So he ended up getting money from these tunes that he played on this one record that got played on radio because of that over there. So if you can, multiply that by a few times, it would be a substantial other income.
Yeah.
But, it's there's not much you can do about it, and there's not really a lot of point in being bitter and twisted about it. You just got to, stay healthy so you can keep working until you're 85.
Yeah, that's really hard.
Yeah.
It's like, I know the super rule you're talking about. Like, I suppose if some of the listeners don't know, it's like that for musicians in a contractual role. Now you have to get paid super.
Yeah.
But previously it was just you just take the fee and
always.
you're on your own.
And you if you're lucky enough to work with people that look after you and value and respect you, that's great. But it shouldn't be on them. You know? So,
what do you think? Like, the younger musicians, perhaps that like coming into the role of like trying to work, in the same way that you have, should be like thinking about and potentially doing to try.
Yeah, that's a good question because it's I see it because I'm out at Box Hill. I lecture in music performance a couple of hours a week out there. I have done for the last 7 or 8 years. And one thing is to say, like I say to them, is like, this is kind of the worst and best time to be a musician because it's really bad because there's bugger all industry, but it's really great because you can do your own thing. Like when I first started, recording, you'd be spending a shitload of money in a studio, so that would be all coming out of your pocket. Now you can do it here, or you could do it anywhere, and make a fairly decent product. And if the content is good, the quality of the music's great, there's no reason why it couldn't do well. Now, I guess the trick is how do you monetize that in a way that's different to just selling product, because there's a really good chance that it'll be on Spotify and the rest of the time you're just trying to sell it at gigs. So you got to work out other ways to do that. Now, I just think some kind of parallel. You got to look at everyone's a small business now. So how does a shop, stay alive? If they're making, for example, clothes, and they're getting it, can't afford to get it made here, they get it made offshore, they do it, but the items still, they might sell 2 or 3 of those. You got to have something else in the shop to keep the rent paid. So you go homewares, or you go something like that. So I guess you start thinking of what other things you can use. Like, so merch becomes a big part of it. So you start looking at merch that's actually, got some, there's a reason why you've got to have this merch. So you've really got to start thinking in terms of, you're almost like a medicine man from the, those trucks from the West where they'd always sell the elixirs and something else, So I guess it's just looking at other ways to finance your art. I mean, art's been financed through the ages. Like, the Renaissance was financed by churches. The ballet and opera's always been financed by state and country, or by subscribers. Yeah. So music needs to, there needs to be a thought, and especially probably by, the powers up higher, that if art and music, art is music, but music is art, sorry, all forms of art, the society needs it. It's valuable. It's a valuable part. People don't think they do because they think that, you can just have it in the background. They need it. So for that to be a crucial part of our existence, funding needs to come from somewhere else. And, there's got to be, the only way that this can happen is benefactors or, sponsorship. But, the only people that have the money to sponsor something like that are questionable. People that no one wants to have on the cover of their record.
Yeah.
So, I remember big bands used to tour here sponsored by tobacco companies.
Whoa.
Yeah, Philip Morris would bring out like all these American jazz artists.
Wow.
That would be the cover because it was they had all the money.
Whoa.
No one gave a shit then, but now it's you try and get anything or even an alcohol company to sponsor anything now. You got to have something that's like that fits with the ethos of the times, but also has money to encourage someone else to do something good.
Yeah.
So that becomes I have a real issue here with the way the government throws money at the arts because they do it in a way that needs a committee set up where you've got 5 people pulling in a pretty major wage to decide who gets the money that's been allocated. So to me, that's not a system that works. I mean, if I ran the country, I would say, all right, we've already got Centrelink set up. We've got a system. So all of a sudden, this much money goes towards people that can prove that their prime source of income is music. You've got a qualifying period of 5 years or something where you're saying that for the last 5 years that's been my only main source of income. Therefore, you can apply for this grant, which is like it's kind of like being on a dole, but it's not the dole. It's a type of arts grant. Mm-hmm. And if that money's spread evenly, there's no reason why people can't go, okay, I've got a tour coming up. I'm not going to make any money on this tour. I can live off this thing while I'm doing that, or I've got no work. I can live on that until the work comes in. But it's actually way more of a, the admin's all there, the infrastructure's there.
Yeah.
So
that's a really fascinating idea.
It's never going to happen, but it's a better way to distribute funds than setting up a body where they get the money, they employ people, they have admin costs, they're earning in fact more money than what the artists they're giving the money to. Mm-hmm. So I don't see in what world that's fair.
Yeah. And you look at the division of where that most of the government money goes to when they're applying a music grant. Yeah. It is things like, the state-sponsored institutions like the opera and the ballet and the orchestras. There's not much for, popular or new contemporary music.
No, it's not a great system. But that's my 2 bobs worth on things.
Well, we've been playing this game on the podcast where I get each guest to ask a question for the next guest.
Right.
So I've got a question for you from contemporary violinist Danny.
Yeah.
If you could choose any other career path that is artistic or creative but has nothing to do with music, what would you pick?
Food.
Ooh. Could you tell us more about that?
I think hospitality to me is the arts. It's another form of art. It's when I go, because I love eating. I love eating out. I love cooking. But the idea of actually, when you go to places and the people that work there take such pride in what they do, the staff make you feel like you're, they love their job and they're going to make you have a great time. That to me is an artist. That's like, I go to certain restaurants in Melbourne that have been there a long time and they've got older wait staff. They've been there forever and they give a shit about the place and they want you to have a great time. To me, that's a vocation like music is.
Yeah.
So, and creativity that comes with food and it's such a big fabric of what Melbourne is. Music, art, sport, all those sort of things. But food is up there with it.
Yeah,
There you
wow.
go.
All right, what question would you like to ask our next guest?
Who's our next guest?
You don't know.
Okay, great. This is a good one. If you had your time again in the art that you chose, is there something you would do differently?
Have you ever wanted to, like, you know, be a touring musician on a different instrument?
No, I just wish that I'd started singing a lot earlier.
Oh, okay.
And I wish that I'd spent a bit more time learning piano. I mean, I can play 3 chords on a piano and I can sit down and work out a melody. But if I was in my 20s now, I'd probably start just – all you got to do is put in 20 minutes a day on something and you'll get good at it. So I was forced into singing on RocKwiz, like doing backing vocals because no one else in the band sang. And once you get confident doing that, I'm by no means, you know, like a great harmony singer, but I can sing. When you're the only voice singing harmony, it's much easier because you can kind of like, you can hear your note and you're not having to be answerable to 2 other singers and you're not landing on their note, you know, and all that.
Yeah.
All this. The minute you have a group singing, you've really got to stick to the rules of harmony. Whereas when it's just you can kind of sing a counter melody a lot of the time, or just sing something that just can work. Sometimes it can even be unison, but just the different timbres in the voice works. So I worked out ways of singing and making things sound good, and I got used to hearing my voice, and I got used to, being more confident with my pitch. You know, there's shitloads more to learn and get better at. You know, and like I say, in Paul's band, I'm the 5th best singer in the band, so I don't really sing much. So, like, you know, when you're a band full of great singers, you know, you're down the list. So,
wow. So was it mostly just like self-taught singing then, like on the job? Got to learn the part.
I've always sung, just, you know, like for fun.
Yeah.
But to actually, you know, all of a sudden thinking, there's a harmony in this song that needs to be there, I could probably do that. And so,
do you just hear them? Like,
yeah, I'll hear what's on I'll just copy what is there.
Okay.
But sometimes I'll hear, I mean, when you're playing something when you're singing something that doesn't already have any harmony on it, then you come up with it yourself. That's a little harder. But to actually hear a line that's been sung, especially if it's a single voice, I can usually learn it and hear it and go, all right, that's there. And I can hear what it sounds like against the melody that it's working. And, you know, and then it's just a question of trying to get the pitch right. I mean, you know, I can hear when I'm out. Sometimes I can't do anything about it.
Yeah. At least you're in there, like, doing it and
it's
putting
like,
in the work.
Wow, this is really flat, or this is a really wrong note, you know. But I'm committed now, you know.
Have you, like, converted to the full in-ears thing?
I haven't. I've done a couple of tours with in-ears. I did a Peter Garrett tour with in-ears, and that worked really good in that band. And when we used to do those New Year's Eve shows, there were in-ears, which I quite liked. But in Paul's band, there's a lot of onstage communication chatty, you know, like between us. So you feel a little bit like isolated when you've got to talk to each other through a mic all the time.
Yeah.
So and I sometimes just like the surrounding noise that you get. The plus side of in-ears is that it takes the room out of the equation. So if you're in a terrible sounding room, you still get a great sound on stage. But to me, I kind of like that mushy sound of like everything together, and, you know, and I like hearing the crowd. You really miss the crowd when you got in-ears. But, you know, there's certainly an argument for it. I've got tinnitus, and I probably wouldn't have it as bad if I'd used in-ears. Although, actually, no.
Do you use plugs? Like,
No.
ever? Okay.
No, I don't like it. But I think the reason I've got tinnitus is actually from headphones in the studio in the 80s.
Oh, wow. Just cranking it and...
Getting above the drums to hear the click, you know, so you're actually, you know, playing to a click and your drums are so loud acoustically. Headphones are better now. There's a lot more isolation, you know, but in those days, you really had to have the click cranked to hear it above the kit. So I'm sure that didn't help. And I think it's just that kind of concussive thing that headphones do.
Yeah.
It's a lot worse than a guitar amp on stage. So,
Yeah, it's literally like screaming into your eardrum.
Exactly. And it's pounding away. So, but my wife thinks I'm deaf, but I'm actually. I had my hearing checked about a year ago, and she said, "What do you think out of 10 your hearing is?" I said, "It's about 7." She said, "Yeah, it's spot on, 7."
Okay.
But it's basically, she said, it's more that you've lost a few S's and P's. Yeah, when you do and that's tinnitus. That's that frequency.
Yeah, right.
So
Wow. What's it about the crowd, I suppose, like energy and vibe that makes it special for you when you're playing?
I think it's just, and hearing people sing along and hearing, just, I don't know, it's just, it feels like it's there. And, I don't know, it takes you out of your own head. Whereas,
right.
If you're on stage, a lot of the time you can go too far into your own head and be, thinking, this doesn't feel great. For tonight, something's not feeling right. And you're zeroing in on yourself, and you're not zeroing in on the fact that for these people down the front, this is the most awesome night of the month or year or whatever.
Yeah.
So why should I screw that up by being so self-obsessed? So sometimes you've just got to go, fuck it, I'm not having a great night, but I'm going to make sure they don't know that. So,
do you have like a favorite crowd moment that comes to mind?
There's a lot, but I think like we did that Red Hot Summer tour with Paul the year before last, and every night for people that were like sitting through maybe 7 artists over a whole day, drinking all day, they were incredibly up for it and not pissed. They might have been, but they didn't appear to be. And it was like the energy coming on stage every night for those shows was amazing. So
how special.
Yeah, it was great.
All right, we've been chatting for a bit over an hour now, so
right.
I should wrap up with the final 5 quick answer questions.
Okay, yep.
Babe, what is your favourite venue to play in Melbourne?
It used to be the Palais. I'd say it still is to a degree. Or where else? And the Corner Hotel was great, but I haven't played there for a long time. But I used to love playing the Corner. Yeah.
Maybe you should, get the band back to the Corner.
Yeah.
A little pop-up gig or something.
Exactly,
like
a warm-up gig. Yeah.
What would be your dream venue to play?
Dream venue, probably. That's it. Somewhere in Tokyo. I've never played in Tokyo.
Oh. Have you done much like Asian touring?
Just Hong Kong, Singapore, Kuala Lumpur, Bali, Jakarta. But, they've been festivals or just one-offs. But I've toured Europe a lot. I love playing in Europe. I think European crowds just treat music like, it's something, and you feel such love and respect when you play there. So, yeah, I guess let's change Tokyo for Paris.
Ooh.
The Olympia in Paris.
Yeah, cool.
Okay.
What is your coffee order?
It's I've recently gone from dairy to oat milk.
Ooh.
Which I don't usually order out, but I do have it at home. I used to just have a flat white, but sometimes I'll do a magic.
Nice.
And it always feels really embarrassing asking for that still.
What is your favourite place to get food after a gig in Melbourne?
Okay. After a gig, the choices you make after gigs aren't always the best ones. I think the Supper Inn. Is it the Supper Club? No, the Supper Inn, the one above the European.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's a bar that has food till late at night, and it's got an open. It's above. Actually, no, it's not. The Supper Inn is the room under it. Siglo is what I'm talking about. Siglo is the rooftop.
Ah, okay.
Same building. It's the
cool.
European, Supper Inn, and Siglo. All of those are great.
Okay, sick.
Because they've got the Siglo's just got this great view of the city, and But, I used to love going to the Supper Club, which was the actually, maybe I'm getting them mixed up. The Supper Club might be the one at the European. Supper Inn was the old Chinese place down in Celestial Lane, which is off Little Burke Street. And that was open really late.
Mm-hmm.
So I used to go there a lot in the 90s.
Yeah, cool.
But these days, gigs are finished early. I'll probably just go home.
Do you have anything really fun and exciting on the rider?
Well, yeah, actually. Well, the rider, the thing about the rider is we have a ritual in Paul's band where we have a thing called a Brother Pete, which is my little concoction that I've made over the years. And it's Hendrick's gin with a slice of cucumber that sits in the cucumber in a shot glass, a little bit bigger than a shot glass for about an hour, and then a little bit of dash of tonic and just whack it down before you go on stage. So that's a big part of the rider.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so glad I asked.
Yeah. And then usually a Guinness when you come off stage with a whiskey on the side.
Okay.
Yeah.
Final question.
Yeah.
What is one piece of advice that you would give to your younger self?
Enjoy all of it. Don't stress about, where you are at any time. Like, I remember thinking when I was in my late 20s, gee, I've never done, I haven't toured overseas or all that kind of stuff, and I haven't done this and haven't done that. And then when I turned 31, I did the most touring I've ever done in my life overseas for the next 4 years. So things happen. I think you just got to trust, enjoy it, and just, like I say this to younger people as well, it's so hard to not think of an outcome. Just enjoy the process. Like the process is what you look back on. You really look back on the days that you have getting excited and looking forward to stuff and enjoying, like there's so many times where you just, I'm tired or this or I'm worried about this, and you're just thinking, man, I really wished I had that morning in Norway that I had 20 years ago back again so that I enjoyed that more. So I think it's just enjoy things and, do what you can and don't wait to get good. That was Tamara Murphy's great advice to the students was, what are you waiting for? I'm going to start practicing, in a month. It's like, why wait? What are you waiting for? Just get good now. So just do the work when you can do the work and just let the rest unfold. If you're dedicated to what you do and you love what you do and you've got a reasonable amount of talent and you're a decent person to get along with, something will happen, So it's just, I think that's all I could say.
Oh, it's been such a privilege having you on the show and talking about this. So thank you so much, Peter.
As you can guess, I don't mind chatting.
Well, it's been great. Thank you.
No worries. My pleasure.